we are now going to take a really, really short break. Why? Because we got our Caneswear Miami Hurricanes report with Manny Navarro, and he's got to follow that. That's next.
If you're a Miami sports fan, then there's only one store to go to, and that's Caneswear at Miami Fanwear in Davie. They're your one-stop shop for all your inner Miami CF, Canes, Dolphins, Panthers, and Marlins merchandise. They have hats, t-shirts, game day jerseys, and so much more. Located at 2511 South University Drive in Davie, and open 24/7 online at caneswear.com or innermiamiwear.com. Call them at 954-835-5597. Caneswear, the spot where Inter Miami and all Miami sports fans shop.
The viewpoint statements or beliefs expressed on the following program by the host, guests, or callers are not necessarily the opinions of FantasyAccess.com, Media Group Inc. ownership, management, sponsors, or website. Time for Canes fans to get what they want. Information, insight, and perspective. It's the Caneswear Miami Hurricanes Report with Manny Navarro, exclusively on a Big O radio show. Here's Big O and insider Manny Navarro.
All righty, we are back. I can see Manny was laughing already from hearing that. And by the way, Hawaiian Punch goes, thank God there's no video on this one, Big O. Yes, there is.
Oh, no.
All cop cars have videos. Now, whether they want to release it or not, that's a whole different ballgame. But, you know, maybe they'll release the Johnson & Johnson video. I have no idea. Now, you got to admit, Manny, it is a trip that the guy's cutting off his penis, and there's a guy named Johnson that's chasing him. I mean, you can't write that shit. And again, Manny, think about this. How do you cut your penis off in the middle of driving?
Right. Well, what was he doing? I mean, what's the point of that? I don't understand the whole cutting the Johnson off. I mean, did he have drugs in there or something? I mean, what?
I have no idea, man. Wow.
I don't get it.
They know where the penis fell, because if they caught like the video of him throwing it, they always say, hey, he threw something out. You know, What was it, a gun? No, I think it was his penis. No, I have no idea. I mean, you know, he probably saw just something flying out. He probably didn't even know what the hell it was. And then after, obviously, that is just an interesting story. All right. The real question is, how many Canes fans will feel like cutting their penises off after that Alabama Canes game? That's the question that we have for you, Manny, after that game. All right. No, so let's get to it. The boys, one of the things that I talked about earlier on the show, and I'm a little uneasy with it. I feel bad for the young man. The amount of pressure that D'Eriq King has on this game, because he's the guy, dude. He's the guy the only guy that we feel like can really play at an elite level to help this team win. And he's got to go out there and be perfect. And this young man has to play his first game fresh from a knee surgery, and he's playing against Alabama and the best team in the country. And the expectations for D'Eriq King are always high. And the fact that he's able to come back, I think we're also to a certain extent, some of us might be a little bit unrealistic about him too in his first game back, because man, we need to take into account what this young man has been through this entire offseason. There's a lot expected on him. There's a lot of weight on his shoulders.
Yeah, there is. There's definitely a lot on his shoulders. The one thing I'll say about him, and maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, I don't remember him having a bad game for the Hurricanes, right? I mean, this guy, since the moment
there
he's
were
been
a couple
here,
bad passes early that he didn't connect. He was having some issues with accuracy and all that kind of stuff, but then it got better as the season went on. And you're right. He was never the issue. Let's put it that way.
He's never been the problem. And, you know, to me, he's risen to the occasion a lot of times for Miami. Yeah. You know, he's stepped up and made a lot of plays. And the one thing you have to say about him is he's not scared. And he's been in these big games before. When he was at Houston, he played Oklahoma. His team didn't win, but he played in that game. I thought he played decently. You look back at last year's game against Clemson, he wasn't the problem. You know, so to me, I think you can expect D'Eriq King to show up and play his best in this game, because outside of the knee injury, there's nothing you can really question him on. I think the guy prepares. I think the guy is focused. I think he's a great leader. So, you know, while there's certainly a lot of pressure on him to deliver, I don't think there's been many instances where he's disappointed us per se.
No, I'm with you. There's zero times that kid has this. He's been phenomenal, man, on and off the field. He's a great example. And that's the other thing that you're going to be able to use with De'Aaron King for years to come, is that this is a guy you want to follow, and you want to use him as an example of how to carry yourself in the program and how to play, and also how to be a team guy, because as you've mentioned, you've enlightened us on these NIL deals, how he's gone out of his way to make sure he includes his teammates, which is not something that, maybe it's something that would be overlooked. And some of these kids are, I don't know if the Ohio State kid that's getting $1 million a year is going to
Right,
do anything for
1.4.
anybody else. You know what I'm saying?
Right. No, I think that's important. And I think that's the one thing that Manny Diaz has to feel very blessed about, right? Is that when they badly needed a quarterback to come in and provide leadership to this team, this guy's done it beyond the football field. He's done it off the field during a very important time of change in college football, where guys are all of a sudden making money. There could be jealousy. And I really do think, for the most part, almost every scholarship player on this team follows De'Aaron's lead. I mean, there might be one or two, buffoons, but I think for the most part, you think back to 2 years ago when Miami lost to FIU, right? And Jaron Williams, who's now the third string quarterback at USF. Think about where the program was then and where it is now going into this game. I don't know where Miami would be without De'Aaron King. I really don't. Last year we would have had N'Kosi Perry probably as quarterback. We'd be having a QB controversy. Is it Jake Garcia, Tyler Van Dyke making their first start against Alabama? It'd be a nuts situation without De'Aaron King.
Hoot hoot, by the way, for N'Kosi Perry.
Yeah,
he is the starter at FAU, man.
Yeah.
You know what? I thought he showed some maturity the way, at first he started with the immaturity, and it seemed like he started to grow up on the back end of his run here at the University of Miami. And obviously now he gets the opportunity at FAU and gets to start. He seems to me like he's a decent kid, and it's somebody you want to pull for, because it also looks to me like he kind of, it looked like he matured and kind of learned his lesson. Now, whether he becomes whatever at quarterback, that's a whole different ball game. But it seems to me like he started to handle maturity and other things a much better way as he grew up a little bit. Is that true?
Yeah, I think there's no doubt. I think N'Kosi Perry is a perfect example of a kid who needed to be brought up in the old school, right? Where their first 2 or 3 years of college, they're not playing. They're basically sitting behind a bunch of other guys that are veterans, learning from them. And Miami wasn't afforded that. I mean, it was basically him and Jaron, like, hey, one of you guys has to be the leader. And I think last year, being in the quarterback room with Rhett Lashley, being with De'Aaron King, really rubbed off on that kid and really made him realize, like, hey, I've got a talent. I can play this position at the D1 level. Let me grow up and give myself a serious chance. And so I think, without question, I really hope N'Kosi does well. You think back to that video and everything else that came out his first 2 years at Miami. You thought, man, this is another one of those kids that's going to be a bust. And now he's the starting quarterback at FAU. He's got 2 years of eligibility left, and he's got a chance to make something of himself. And that's what's important.
Yeah. And listen, you can get noticed there. So if he goes out there and balls out, he still has a chance to have some kind of a pro career if that's what he wants. So that's the beauty of where he's at right now. There's a couple of dudes already in the NFL straight from that school. So he's got an opportunity to get there. So I find myself intrigued now. I support FAU and FIU just because I'm a UM fan. I want the hometown teams to do well. But I know that I'm going to be a little bit more focused on FAU this year because of Perry, and I'm going to be rooting for the kid, actually. So, all right, Manny, do me the I don't know, give me the information, break it down for me. Is there a logical way that Miami can beat Alabama? Do you see that? And what is that logical way in your eyes?
They've got to be the run defense they were a few years ago. They've got to be excellent. They got to completely make Alabama one-dimensional, make Bryce Young beat them in his first career start, and play the perfect game. I mean, offensively, they can't have turnovers. They can't be making mistakes. They've got to put points on the board against a really tough defense. And then to me, it's the other side of the ball. It's the run defense. Can Manny Diaz have a tremendous effect on this group in year one, in game one? And that's a lot to ask. That's why they're 19-point underdogs or whatever. Look, I think this defense is going to get better as the year goes on. I think it was smart to put Keontra Smith into the starting lineup. I think it was good to move Amari Carter into the box because Amari Carter is still a good player. He's still fast. He can cover. He could certainly hit people. We've seen him do that a lot. So I think, these are sort of the necessary changes that Manny needed to make. I think the one area everybody's going to question him is, should you have taken in a linebacker through the transfer portal? And if these guys are not doing a good job tackling, if Corey Flagg struggles, if you have injuries and you're sitting there saying, man, they should have taken that kid from Texas who ended up at Tennessee, then I think, that's fair game because Manny had the opportunity to sign him and didn't. The kid wanted to come here. So that's going to be the whole season to me. Can they play run defense the way they used to under Manny Diaz? Because when Jess Simpson and Manny Diaz were together in 2018, and yes, they had Gerald Willis at defensive tackle having a ridiculous year.
Yes.
They were one of the best run defenses in the country. I mean, they were leading in tackles for loss. They were leading in sacks. Their defense in 2018, even though they were 7-6 and horrible offensively, that was one of the best defenses in the country. And so Manny has proven he can get those guys to that point. The question is, did he make the right decisions going smaller and faster with some of his linebackers?
Okay, so that's the follow-up I have with that, because I do have an issue with that, because I love people that say, well, they're smaller, but they're quick, and that speed will make a difference. And they keep thinking that the Alabama got a bunch of two-toed sloths on their team, and
Right.
they don't. They have big, fast human beings on that team. They have the best athletes in the country on that team. So they could be just as fast or faster than UM and stronger and bigger than them. So I don't buy this. I'm sorry. I think people are kind of kidding themselves that they think, you know what it is? I think there's a lot of old school people that are falling for the banana in the tailpipe from Jimmy Johnson back in the 80s when he first started this whole thing of the faster defense and those kind of things. That's changed already at this point, 30 years later. The guys nowadays are freakish athletes with freakish sizes now. And so to me, that's where I disagree with the philosophy that some say that the faster, smaller Canes can be more effective against them on Saturday. I think it's going to be a lot of what we saw with Nebraska years ago during the probation and Butch Davis, that Nebraska wore them down in that bowl game. Remember?
Yeah.
I think there's going to be a lot of those kind of characteristics in this one, that these guys are bigger, stronger, and just as fast, and they're just going to wear your ass down in the second half.
I mean, look, these guys have continued to recruit an elite level. I mean, it's not like all of a sudden Alabama lost all those first-round picks and those guys are gone and they don't have guys more than capable of replacing them. It's just this is going to be the first game where these guys get that opportunity. And so I agree with you. I mean, I think, the big difference is everybody in college football runs spread now. They spread the field out. It really challenges defenses to tackle well in the open field. And when you go with smaller linebackers, even if they're fast, I mean, if those offensive linemen are well coached, they're going to get your hands on you and you're not going to be anywhere close to being able to make a play. So to me, this game comes down to defensive tackle. Can Miami create enough havoc with those guys where they disrupt some running lanes and they make it hard at the point of attack? Because if Miami's defensive tackles are getting pushed backwards and they're rotating guys in and nothing's working. It's the same sort of rotation. Yeah, they got 8 guys, but all of them are getting pushed backwards. It's going to be a really long day for Miami. It just is, because they don't have the linebackers to wrap up and to hold on to these guys. That's going to be 5, 6, 7, 8 yards down the field every time Alabama hands the ball off. So to me, this is where John Ford, Nessa Silvera, Jared Harrison Hunt, all of those guys at the defensive tackle position that have been here 3, 4, now going on 5 years for some of them, that's where they have to be not good, but elite. They've got to be difference makers, because if they're just average, well, average doesn't work against Alabama. I don't care what the names are on the back of the jersey, because the talent level year in, year out there at that offensive line is just ridiculous. So, yes, they don't have all 5 returning starters back. They've got Evan Neal at left tackle. They got Emil Ekiyor at right guard. But shit, that's 2 really good players, and I'm sure the other 3 guys around them are going to be really good.
Yeah, exactly. They'll have other 5-star guys that are going to be there. What's your prediction, my brother? What did you pick?
Yeah, I think Miami's going to stay in the game, and the only reason I say that is because I do think they're going to have some success offensively. I don't think they're going to be turning the ball over. I don't think they're going to be giving Alabama extra possessions, or, I think they're going to pick up some first downs, move the chains. I think they're going to have some success running the football. I just don't think it's going to be enough. I think Alabama wins this game by 10, 11 points, and I don't think it's really close in the fourth quarter. I think it's one of those deals where, Miami, it's one of those 2-score deals where, like, oh, can they get it to 1 score? I think that's the kind of game we're going to see. But I think, Bryce Young's going to struggle. I think you saw it yesterday with Ohio State's quarterback, right? The first half, they were losing. His first start, he wasn't very sharp in the first half. And then all of a sudden, the second half, he's hitting guys wide open down the field. Well, Ohio State has better receivers right now than Alabama does. And that's just because they're returning guys who have experience. So I think in this game, it's going to take a little while for Alabama's offense to, create the big plays. I think they're going to have long possessions as well, try to run it right down Miami's throat. So I think this is a, 31-20, 34-20 type game.
Man, if that happens, I'll be incredibly happy with that. And let me tell you, I'm going to give Manny Diaz a lot of props, because that means he did a really good job of coaching, because I have to be honest, he doesn't have the talent that Alabama has, and he's not the coach that Saban is. So if he's able to keep it that close, Manny, kudos to you, and I'm going to be a pretty happy camper on Monday for that one and for the show. As always, my brother, appreciate you. What do you got going on tomorrow? Game day at the Athletic, so folks can check it out.
Yeah, well, we're going to have a live blog going during the game as usual. I'll be sharing my thoughts through there, as well as on Twitter during the game, and, lots of coverage from the game. Unfortunately, I'm not going. My wife still COVID positive, and I'd be an irresponsible husband if I left her here with 2 kids being COVID positive.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I'm not getting on that plane. But I will be watching.
Don't leave out the fact that she's also going to kick your ass for leaving.
Right,
too.
right. That's the real reason I'm staying home.
Okay, all right. Let's be honest now.
So I'll be home watching the game, but all the interviews and all that stuff I'll be able to get. And sometimes I honestly feel like, watching it on TV is better than being there. Yes, you can see things that other people can't see, but honestly, I mean, a lot of times I'm sitting there in the stadium. I've got the TV broadcast on because they're giving us updates that we won't get otherwise, sideline updates and things of that nature. So, but
you're my world, bro. I no longer did the beat thing and watching at home. I get to watch multiple games. So as a talk show host, it's better for me. I get to rewind. I get to take notes. I can be relaxed. And so for me, it's actually you're way more productive watching it from home. And technically, since you can't walk into the locker rooms anymore, watching it on TV and getting everything else virtual like everybody else, you're really not missing anything, dude.
No,
really.
not at all.
The only thing you're missing is maybe a Whataburger or a Chick-fil-A or something that you could have enjoyed while you're out there.
Well, what's crazy is I won't travel now till October 16th to the North Carolina game, because everything else will be home games for the next few weeks after this Alabama game. So that's good news for Miami. They'll get 4 straight home games, and hopefully at that point they're 5-0 or 4-1.
That would be really nice, man, if that happens. Follow him on Twitter at Manny_Navarro, and make sure you subscribe to The Athletic because he does excellent work there. Manny, as always, thank you, sir. I appreciate you immensely.
No problem, Big O. Good talking to you.
There you go. The great Manny Navarro with our Caneswear Miami Hurricanes report. And you get it twice a week here on Le Programme. So make sure you come on out and check us out twice a week so you can catch our Caneswear Miami Hurricanes report with the one and only Manny Navarro.
If you're a Miami sports fan, then there's only one store to go to, and that's Caneswear at Miami Fanwear in Davie. They're your one-stop shop for all your Inter Miami CF, Canes, Dolphins, Panthers, and Marlins merchandise. They have hats, t-shirts, game day jerseys, and so much more. Located at 2511 South University Drive in Davie, and open 24/7 online at caneswear.com or intermiamiwear.com. Call them at 954-835-5597. Caneswear, the spot where Inter Miami and all Miami sports fans shop.